everybody, it's Leslie Dale, TFP crew, Ella Smith, and Zach Peterson, who has been in court this morning. The charges against Bobby Stone, the mayor's chief advisor's husband, who was in a reported domestic dispute with Lacie Stone back in May, charges of assault,
domestic assault, and vandalism.
Okay, dropped this morning. Let's start with that. What happened in court?
Correct. They were dismissed. District Attorney Neil Pinkston went into the courtroom along with Defense Attorney Lee Davis, who's representing Bobby Stone. They both appeared before Sessions Court Judge Lyle Statham. General Pinkston spoke first, talked about how he had filed a motion to dismiss the case. He had attached a memorandum. That just means usually that here are all the points of either proof or the factual basis for my decision to write this motion. So he files this thing. Obviously the judge looks over it and agreed to dismiss the charges.
Okay, and we have that order of dismissal linked for you on our website.
Right, the motion to dismiss.
Right.
There.
So what was stated? The reasons the DA stated.
Well,
to
the
dismiss?
DA left it on the memo. He said that obviously the facts did not make him feel comfortable enough to continue prosecution. So, I mean, if you go through this, they haven't unsealed the TBI report because there's a whole lot around that, but more or less, I'll kind of read you some of the stuff that I've gotten in an email from their office, but they're considered confidential under Tennessee Open Records Act. It's not a discretionary decision that their office can make. They do not choose to withhold TBI files the way that local law enforcement is allowed to do with their records, as well as the fact that TBI files cannot be released without a court order unsealing them. So,
and that dates back to the 1970s. That's a very old rule.
Okay, yeah.
A bunch of newspapers have written about it, and news stations have discovered this. The TBI reports, unlike FBI reports, which in some cases can be responsive to a Freedom of Information Act request, TBI reports remain sealed until a judge orders otherwise, right?
Right, so they would need a court order.
Forever, essentially. Unless something happens, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's more on that at Tennessee Code Annotated. It's for anyone who does want to look it up.
If you want to read through the law, here you go. Get ready.
10-7-504, and then in parentheses 2, and then in parentheses A. So
Okay.
that's kind of why I don't want to say we're in the dark, but all we have is obviously the police report, the police incident report, and this memo now, this motion.
Which is drawn, is any of that drawn from the TBI report, or we don't know where he got these conclusions about, because maybe we should talk about some of the specific things in there as well. But
And again, that's linked on the website, this order of dismissal, motion.
Are we assuming if we say that it's possible that he got these things from the TBI report, or is that where he got the basis for his decision?
I would assume, I mean, he asked
Okay.
the TBI to investigate this independently. So
these were some of the findings that essentially he's rewritten into his motion, basically.
I'm working to confirm that, but
Okay.
that's my best guess right now, yeah. But
So,
anyway.
what are some of these unusual concerns that led the DA, Neil Pinkston, to, like, the inconsistencies? What are some of them? We do know based on the evidence we do have, which is some inconsistencies in Lacie Stone, Mayor Berke's chief advisor's statements to the police.
I think he said there were some minor and major inconsistencies. He used that phrase. Does that sound right?
He did use that phrase. He said she was also interviewed by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation several days after the incident. He also said she was interviewed by the Special Victims Unit through the Chattanooga Police Department. Some of the narrative that gets drawn out through this motion is kind of interesting because obviously it says it happens. There are two parts to this, obviously, the domestic violence allegations, but then you have the vandalism thing, which comes from the fact that as she was leaving, he throws some kind of object through the back of her car window. But getting back to this memo here, this motion to dismiss, one of the things it talks about is how she calls Chief Fred Fletcher. They don't live very far apart.
Back in May.
Back in May after this happens, and she goes to his house.
And when she called him initially, we've reported from the police report, she said, my husband is trying to kill me.
Right.
That was the first thing, but then it goes on, the motion says that she said twice no assault ever happened. So she gave a written statement to that effect, and she was concerned about, quote, her job, the publicity this event may garner, and allegations of extramarital affairs with Mayor Berke, correct?
Right. That's what it says in the motion here. It goes
Okay.
on to say that another member of the mayor's office, chief of staff, Stacy Richardson, is contacted at some point. She goes out there as well.
They don't say who contacted her. It's in passive voice.
Right. Yeah. The exact language is at some point in time, Stacy Richardson had been contacted. It goes on to say she goes there. She tells law enforcement that Lacie Stone just wanted us to go away. So this is where it gets a little confusing. But then they start to say that some individual from the mayor's office and the Chattanooga Police Department decide to send this to the Special Victims Unit to handle the investigation. And that Special Victims Unit is supposed to handle situations of domestic violence.
They're specially trained for these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
How to because there's a different
The protocol.
Yeah, there's a different protocol for these types of things.
So then a detective who's been with this unit for a year gets assigned to investigate the matter. This detective also goes over to Chief Fletcher's house, according to the motion, during the early morning hours of this May 21st event. Once they get there, Lacie Stone is gone. She is left with Stacy Richardson. The detective calls her. She doesn't want to speak any further that night. Now, the motion does point out that she does interview with them several days later. Moving on here, in the meantime, other officers go to Bobby Stone's house, trying to gather more facts about the investigation, and they transport him to the station. Before he goes, according to the motion, he gives a written statement regarding the incident and again denies hitting Lacie.
Okay.
Once he's there, according to the motion, the Special Victims Unit detective conducted an audio interview with Robert Stone, but failed to notify Stone of his constitutional rights to remain silent. I'm reading directly from the motion here.
Right.
Based upon his statement alone, the detective swore out warrants for domestic assault and vandalism for Robert Stone. It was noted by law enforcement officers that Lacie Stone's inconsistent statements alone did not provide enough cause for an arrest warrant.
I have a question. Is it okay?
Sure.
Is this the first time we've reported that Stacy Richardson was involved?
This is the first time I have reported that.
Yeah. So this is the first direct, because before I guess you hear all sorts of things. Who knows? But this is the first time we've seen in black and white.
And that's the mayor's chief of staff.
That the mayor's chief of staff showed up that night.
I had heard allegations of that, but
Right, we hear all sorts of stuff,
it was no.
We only write
didn't-
what we can confirm, and
Right.
this is I think the first confirmation, I guess,
Yeah,
that we've
legal confirmation. Right, we hear all sorts of things. Trust me. Yeah.
Right. So, I guess obviously then we kind of get to where we're at now, which is that you combine all of this stuff. I think the big thing, I haven't talked to the prosecutors, but I would imagine that a big issue for prosecutors in a lot of cases is when you have inconsistent statements, because that's a pretty common defense strategy to pick that apart.
They said this, but then they said this. Which did you mean? That kind of thing.
Well,
Right.
going from saying my husband is trying to kill me or going to kill me to then within hours saying that there was no assault.
But that's not totally unheard of among
Right,
domestic
no,
assault victims.
not at
because
all.
they,
But it is inconsistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big point to still stress here is we don't have that report. Don't
We
fully
don't
know
have
what
the
it says.
report. We have the
Don't
motion.
have any kind of summary
we
that
have for you.
would wrap it up or point out whether there's any wrongdoing or not.
Well, after the court appearance, Bobby Stone said Mayor Berke, again, had an inappropriate relationship with his wife and conspired with police to have him falsely arrested.
this was a public
So,
statement he made after the trial
after-
was over, correct?
After the hearing was
The hearing,
over
sorry.
today. So, him saying the alleged conspiracy theory with police, he's still talking about that. So, whether or not anything else goes on with those allegations from this point on will be seen or won't be.
Yeah, we don't
Right.
know. We don't know what his plans are at this point. He may
We've
have no plans.
reached
This may
out
be
to his attorney. no plans at this moment, no confirmation of anything moving forward, but
Now, he is still in a divorce trial, right?
Yes.
Are we covering that as well?
I haven't done much with that yet.
Yeah, but that's still ongoing. We don't know what, if anything, will be entered into that.
Right.
Could this have any bearing on that?
I don't know. I mean, this is dismissed now. I'm sure if that there's a possibility, of course, if they do have a court order that unseals the report. I mean, that would allow it to be attached to a motion if they want to file something in a divorce proceeding. But I don't know how that all plays out.
Have the mayor or Stacy Richardson or Fred Fletcher, the police chief Fred Fletcher, said anything to us yet?
They're going to release a statement later today.
Okay.
So is Lacie Stone.
Okay, so we'll hear their reaction to this later today. All right.
okay, but yeah, charges for Mayor Berke's chief advisor, Lacie Stone's husband, Bobby Stone, have been dropped for domestic assault and vandalism today. So, anything else you want to add? Any questions? Any questions people have?
Yeah, let's look.
Yeah, let's look at that. And I did reach out to the attorney for Bobby Stone to get that motion as well. So they got that into us pretty quickly. And you guys can read it, like I mentioned. If you're tuning in right now, we have it linked for you on the website, timesfreepress.com.
Jimmy Ovington wants to know, so this leaves the accusations where? And I guess he's referring to the accusations that Bobby Stone made at the end of after the hearing was concluded about a conspiracy or the mayor's involvement or whatever. And we kind of already answered that, I guess, in saying that we don't know, right? I mean, we don't know what the next step is.
Right. I mean, a full TBI report
it would certainly shine light on it.
could shed more light on whether there's wrongdoing or not. So, I mean, there are no additional charges here. That kind of implies that there is no wrongdoing, but there's no written word on that yet.
Yeah, and it's always frustrating as reporters with federal reports and with, we went through this with the July 16th thing, a lot of investigations where they seem to investigate for what seems to us to be a very long time, and then sometimes we find out what the results of that investigation
Especially something of that magnitude.
And sometimes
it can
we
be
don't.
Years later with an act of terror. That's a little different. But
I looked through several newspapers in other cities that have dealt with the same thing, and there have been many high-profile incidents where the report was never released, even though it was a public figure, and it's just without as Zach noted earlier, if you're just tuning in, without a court order, a judge basically saying this report can be unsealed, that report remains sealed. So
that's what the DA's office has said.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
So we'll obviously we are just as interested in it as you guys are, and we'll continue to pursue it as best we can. But we follow the law of the land just like everybody else. So we have no special rights not granted to regular citizens like you guys. So we just ask the questions.
Yep.
Anything else?
That's it. So for everybody who's asking, we've answered what we can today, and we'll continue to follow this, or Zach will. He'll continue to let us know. So he has a lot to work on. Thanks for taking the time. I know your phone's blowing up over there.
Yeah, I got it back.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you, Zach.
Let us know when you get those statements.
Will do.
Okay, and we'll let you know. Bye, guys.